Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of WeDeepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber. And today I am in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm at the Pod Populi studio here with Brian Howie, and my father, Robert Weber, is in the studio with us today. And this is actually the first podcast that I'm recording directly from a beautiful studio. Pod Populi has 10 locations throughout the United States now. Cleveland, Ohio, Phoenix. Go check it out. But I'm so excited to be here in the studio looking all professional today. And I have my dad. You guys get to meet part of the complete two people who gave birth to me and put me here into the universe. And you get to meet him. My dad and I, if you've seen on Instagram or Facebook, have been traveling for the past month and a half. He retired after 50 years of working for the same company. Like, who does that anymore? And we've been transitioning, or I've been supporting him as he's transitioning into retirement, and we've been celebrating and having fun. So we lived in an RV for a month, traveled all throughout the East Coast, and now this is our last day here in Miami. Dad, it's so good to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you, Christy, for having me.
So this is your first time sharing your voice, and in this new way. What's it like so far?
Well, our travels have been great and very enjoyable, pleasurable. Thank you for taking care of me and putting up with me.
You're welcome. I know it's really easy to put up with me.
Oh, no.
What's most challenging about me?
Your independence.
It's so interesting. I like to live my life as being thinking of it more of interdependence, but you see me as independent.
Yes, and you're a very strong-minded woman, passionate about what you want to do and say and think, and you don't like to be told no.
I don't like to be told no. Because I think there's always a way, not to compromise. I know Yadiks on this podcast is like, no compromising. But yeah, I guess I'm passionate about living life as your authentic self and fully expressed. So Dad, my work, WeDeepen, I learned a lot about parenting in the moment that you invested, because you are the first investor in WeDeepen. And to give everyone a little backstory, if you don't know, in 2014, I launched a dating experience, Underground Unattached, that I ran for 2 years in New York City. And there I realized that, wow, one dating experience isn't going to solve the challenges that people are feeling in their relationships. And so I stepped back from that, entered a startup accelerator program in the fall of 2017 to be in that problem and find a new solution. Like, what is the solution to help people have thriving relationships? And I saw there was a trend in transformational programming, experiences that get people into states of joy and fun and play, like ecstatic dances, self-development courses, TED Talk style speaker salons, as well as other dating events, Tantra Speed Date, Hum. And so the idea that came out of that accelerator program was like, what if we take all of these transformational social experiences and put them into one central hub, one central location? And so that's the fall of 2017, 2018. I started baiting the experiences, making it all up. 2019, we launched, we built traction. People in the Los Angeles area were coming out, our lists were building, getting positive feedback, momentum's growing. And I got to a place in the summer of 2019 where we needed cash. I hadn't raised funding and I was doing it all on my own. And I remember talking to some of my advisors and telling them I just need like $10,000, and they said back to me, you can't just raise $10,000, Christina. You need to raise a round of funding. And so one of my advisors had linked me to a CFO, Lisa Broadwick. And I got on the phone with her and she said, okay, you work with me. We need to raise funding. And I got off the phone and I called you, Dad. And I said, I need to raise a round of funding. We're going to raise a $150 round, or $150,000 round. And you said, well, call your mom. She'll put, I'll do half. I'll do 25,000 and she can do the other 25,000. And said, I don't know if Mom's ready for that type of investment. And you said, well, I'll do it. Cause I said I was going to call other family members. You said, no, I'll do it. And what I learned about parenting in that moment is because throughout that journey, I had, I just posted a quote today that said, entrepreneurship, it's where your life is fantastic and fucked up all at the same time. And you had, I don't know if you had known, but throughout the years of me in this entrepreneur journey, I had went for periods of times where I was sleeping on people's couches and second bedrooms and never quite homeless. I was supported by community, but I was in my, grit and grind and struggle to build something for years. And it was so beautiful because out of all the times you could have invested in WeDeepen, I wasn't ready for that type of investment at that moment in time, which was August of 2019. I was ready and you said yes. And it empowered me. It lifted me up, and will forever be the most just heartfelt feeling that you were the first person to invest in. Since we have raised another $50,000 round. After that, we're actually going to go out and raise another round. But Dad, for you to be that first investor is really meaningful to me.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I was able to do that my lifestyle, my job of 49 years almost allowed me to do that. So.
And what was it in that moment? Like, why did you say yes?
Because I could. It's a simple answer.
Because you could. What, with watching me, I'm now taking, I'm getting my certification in life coaching through IPAC. And 2 weekends ago, I was in a 3-day immersive weekend, 10 hours a day in a coaching program online. And one of the homework assignments was to go ask somebody in your life to tell you things about yourself that inspires them about you. And so I called you and I asked you this, and you said, well, it was my positive outlook on life. You said something else. I can't remember the second thing. If you remember, let me know. And then before we got off the phone, I asked for another thing, and you said, and your persistence. What is it about me as an entrepreneur, a business owner that, besides saying yes because you could, but what else about me?
Well, over the years, I've learned a lot about you. After your mom and I separated, you were still in high school and you had to finish that, go to college there. So I didn't have the opportunity to spend all that time as I would like to. And I've been now able to learn about you, see you work, see your drive, see your enthusiasm, and all those adjectives that are very positive for an entrepreneur, somebody that's driven, that's passionate, that over-communicates.
Over-communicates. Do you think I over-communicate?
Yes, isn't that what's one of your boyfriends said, exes said?
Oh, on the show X-Rated, there is, Umberto, the first guy on the show. If you guys haven't seen, I did do a show recently that released in August on the Peacock Network, X-Rated. I am episode 7, the relationship guru who can't find love is the episode my dad is referring to. So yeah, I don't think I over communicate. I think that other people aren't used to being able to communicate as well as I communicate. And so that is then seen as that I over communicate.
I think you underestimate the people you're talking to, because I got it the first time you said it. I didn't need it 3 more times.
But it's helpful to get it more times, you know?
Not to me. You're wasting my time.
So you think I waste your time sometimes?
And basically you're calling me dumb.
I'm not calling you dumb.
Well, if you think
you are assuming things.
You just said you have to over communicate to make sure I got it.
So my dad and I are pretty much in a relationship. We've lived together in an RV for a month. And now we've just spent 2 weeks together in an Airbnb in Miami. So with comes a relationship, comes the turbulence too, and the tension at times. I think we do a very good job of overcoming our differences. You know, you and I have different lifestyles to some extent.
Yes, but because I can control my temper.
You control your temper, and I don't control my temper?
I didn't say you didn't.
That's true, you didn't.
So why would you leap that way?
That's true. I take that back. So you learned, is that a skill that you've learned? Did you at one point not know how to control your temper?
Well, I've always been able to control my temper. It's just I don't get as angry as I used to be, or as demanding as I used to be, or, you know, let's go, it's time to go. You know, you're never ready on time. If we're supposed to be someplace at 8 o'clock and we need to leave 15 minutes up, you're going to leave at 8 o'clock or after.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that statement that I'm never on time. I've never missed a flight.
Have you come close to missing a flight?
Everybody has come close to missing a flight. But I've
never suffered that.
In the scheme of things, what I see the difference between you and I and some of our other family members is that a lot of people plan further out in advance than I do. I am holding a lot. I'm a podcast host. I am the CEO of a startup. I'm working with tons of guides of their experiences and coaching them and supporting their businesses, as well as participating in family obligations and duties, and as well as making time to have my own personal love life, or eventually having my own personal love life. So I have less free time than most people. So I use all of my time. So I don't...
We had this conversation yesterday when I asked you, what are you planning to wear to fly home to Baltimore, where it's colder? And you thought, well, I don't plan that far ahead, and, you know, I'm just going to figure it out when I figure it out. I, on the other hand, I have to have a plan.
Yeah, so that's a difference of view. There's no right or wrong in which way.
And I've always had to have a plan because of my job. I had to lead people. I had to make sure they did their jobs. I had to follow up on that. There's a whole lot going into the need for planning. You can't just walk into an office where you got 100 people working for you and they don't know what the hell they're going to do today. I tell them a month ahead of what they need to do.
So I understand that approach, and that's a different approach, and we all have different, and I can see now, I can realize in what you're saying of you viewing me as super independent because I don't fit within that box. I'm outside of that box. But let's take it back to, so you worked for the same company for 49 years. To me, for somebody who spent my 20s switching jobs every 2 years, and then 7 years ago was like, I'm going to do my own thing. And thank goodness, as we were driving here today, I said, thank goodness that I do work for myself and I have chosen this career path, because if I had chosen something else and, as you said, gotten a quote unquote real job, then I wouldn't have been able, I wouldn't have this luxury to be able to travel and spend this time with you that I have. So blessed, so rare. Most father-daughters don't get the opportunity that we just got to have together.
Well, there's different paths of different people, because I know people, women, that has been very successful in their jobs, that travels extensively. She has her, Joanne is what I'm referring to now. She has her own place down here in Florida. I don't remember the name of it. She lives in Maryland. She's got season tickets to the Buffalo Bills, and she's very independent, and she can do what she wants when she wants. And now that, COVID's here, she's now landlocked to an office. She can work anywhere.
Yeah, I guess that there's all different types of jobs. You can make up one for you, like I have done, or you can find one that fits within your lifestyle, and you found one that fits within your lifestyle. It is a part of you. 49 years after, I not necessarily doing the same thing every day, because you have shared that there was a growth experience throughout the whole entire time of those 49 years. But now, as you're transitioning into another, like a second, do you feel like you're transitioning to a second life?
Well, I just retired, and I just had a month and a half off virtually, so I'm still trying to figure it out. Obviously, I don't have to get up in the morning. I used to get up 5, 6 o'clock every morning, get into work by 8 or earlier. Now I'm forcing myself to stay in bed until 9 because I have this long day ahead of me, and what the heck am I going to do? So I have to figure that part out.
And the traveling, I imagine, has been a nice pattern interrupter, another adventure of something to do. Go get the car, go, sightsee, especially when you were driving the RV. There was a lot of driving. There was a lot of something to do. You're a really good driver.
Well, thank you. I'm a professional.
You are a professional driver. You know what? So for the past year and a half, not only I've been spending a lot of time with my dad, I also spend a lot of time with my mom. I have, during COVID, pre-COVID, was living in Los Angeles, and then COVID happened and in-person events stopped. I went back to Maryland and rooted in with my family. So now I've been spending time with my mom and my dad, living at their houses at 40 years old. And when I drive with the two of them, they like to direct and tell me how to drive. It's really quite interesting. It's like all these years, it's 2 decades plus of me driving a car without my parents. Thank goodness they've come back into my life and be able to tell me when to turn right.
Well, you need help in driving, Conan. You're pretty scary. You got a heavy foot, and when we were down here in Florida, just this trip is that you got 1/10 of a mile to make a right-hand turn, and there's a bus in front of you that's going to move, and you try to get in the bus. I don't understand that. What's your hurry? Slow down, relax.
So I can't remember the exact situation my dad is referring to. All of my friends tell me that I'm a great driver. I guess maybe I just don't meet their expectations of driving skills. I haven't gotten into a car accident except once when I was 16. I scraped the side of my dad's car coming out, but it was an accident. I apologized.
Oh, she stole my car at that point in time.
I did steal your car. A group of friends and I stole the car. I was 15. I had my learner's permit. The school, in high school, we had a bomb scare that day, so they sent us all home, and 6 of us girls went to my house, and we wanted to go to the thrift store. So the car that was going to be mine, an Oldsmobile, was sitting in the driveway, and the keys were there. And so one of my girlfriends, Jen Phillips, she had her learner's permit. She was older, a little bit older than us. So she drove us to the thrift store, which was probably a good 15 miles away. And we all piled in, 6 girls, and we went shopping. And
did you ask for permission?
nobody was there for me to ask permission from.
Did we have phones? Working phones?
You had working phones, but the answer would have probably been no. And as you said earlier, I don't like to hear the word no. So I just bypassed it. And the only reason that you found out about stealing the car is it was a year later that you found out about that moment. And because when I came home, we all came home, my brother, who's 4 years older than me, was sitting in the driveway, and he knew. He saw me.
Wait a minute. I knew when I saw my car.
No.
It was all scraped up.
That's a different incident where you're moving to another incident. We're talking about when I stole the car. And what happened was a year later, we were at dinner, me, my mom, my brother, and you and Mom were going through the divorce. And in the middle of dinner, Tony decides to blurt out that I stole the car a year ago. And I was like, what? Too soon? But you or Mom didn't really pay much attention because you had your own drama at that time going on the moment. So there wasn't really, and it was a year later. So what were you going to do at this point? I was already driving at this point. You can't really punish a child for something they did a year prior. So it was fine. You got privy to that information through Tony. You would have never even known.
Okay. Separate incidents.
Separate incidents. So what I've noticed, you tend to, in your older age, it's like you're reliving a life that you've already lived before, because a lot of times when you watch TV shows or you share information, it's like you've already done it before.
Yes.
Yes. And so there might be some times that you're perceiving situations like I am an excellent driver, but you're perceiving, you have these memories that are of maybe your I think the human brain actually remembers the negative things more than it remembers the positive, focuses on negative things, because of all the time that I've driven, I've actually been an excellent driver.
All the time that you have driven, I wasn't in the car with you.
That's true, but I've survived.
Until recently. Okay, and then I have good instincts.
You do have good instincts, but if I'm not a good driver, then you should probably blame yourself because you taught me to drive.
I gave you a little bit of training. Okay, teaching to drive is just not about an hour or two. It's about months.
And I've gotten decades now of learning to drive. Let's, one of the things I want to acknowledge is, so I've done a lot in my grown-up life of studying of spirituality, all the different modalities and practices. As you can see within this podcast, I geek out with a lot of people who are leading the transformational movement. And my first entryway into really seeing the world in a different way was around 28 or 30, and I started studying Kabbalah. And Kabbalah has a belief, and it's a belief that I like. You don't have to take on all these beliefs, but there's some beliefs that you hear that you actually like. And Kabbalah believes that a woman, the female soul, chooses her parents. So that the mother will choose her son, but the female soul chooses its parents. And I really like that that thought of me choosing you and Mom to be my parents this lifetime, because there is no other person that I would like to have as my father besides you. And you have given me the encouragement to be myself, as well as the restriction or the things that I see that, oh, wait, I want to do things differently than that. So you've given me both of those. So thank you. I wouldn't want anyone else.
Well, you're welcome. I don't know if I subscribed that you chose me, especially since, the difficulties your mom and I had with you, of having you.
Do you think that's affected me?
I don't know. Maybe so.
There was a moment 5 years ago. I don't know if you remember this. 5 years ago, you had come to visit in Los Angeles when you and Kat, my bonus mom, my dad has recently, in the past few years, separated from his second wife. And you two had come out, you were together at the time, came out to visit me in Los Angeles. And I was in kind of a relationship. It wasn't a great relationship at that time. We were experiencing a lot of conflict. And there was one night that you had, with tears in your eyes, had said to me, I feel like it's that I'm to blame that you're not in a relationship. And I remember in that moment thinking, what is he talking about? It has nothing to do with him. But do you remember that thought that you had?
Yes, I do.
And what was that about?
Well, because you were still in high school, and when your mom and I had our difficulties and we separated, and, I lost all those years when you were 17, 18 to when you graduated from college, and then you went to Europe, and then you moved to New York.
And you felt as though you lost those years with me?
Sure.
Huh. I still felt a presence of you in my life. But I also think, it's probably even before that 17, 18. I mean, you and Mom started to experience conflict. I started to observe conflict more around probably when I was 11, 12, 13. So by the time that you two separated, a lot of parents they want to stay together for the kids, or because the Catholic church says, or whatever church says, you don't get divorced. But I saw the conflict of you two not wanting to part, of not letting go of each other. And I often think for parents, when they tell that they're staying together for kids, that we just, as children, we just want to see our parents happy. I think for the same token that you want to see your kids happy every Christmas for my entire life. When I ask you, what do you want for Christmas? You always say good kids. And so in that good kids, I imagine, comes happiness. We just want happiness for the other. So when you did, years later, meet Kat and had a beautiful 10-year relationship. Of course, you had your own drama and your own relationship, but that was actually a light for me to see, or good for me to see, that you were experiencing now a love or a different type of love than you had with Mom, that you were happy in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kat and I had a lot of good times.
Now, you might say, okay, move on, but I'm going to ask, in that, so yes, back to that time of being 17, and you had shared with me at one point, when Mom and you were separating, and you had sat me down on the steps. We were in the Severn Crossing house in Bowie, Maryland, and you sat me down on the steps and you said, I don't love your mom anymore. And years later, that statement sort of confused me, because of how was it that my dad, who I love, is the man that I love most in this lifetime, and my mom, she's the woman who I love most in the world too, they created me. How does he not love her anymore? And I remember as I was reconciling that years later, around this time that you had brought up, I feel like it's my fault that you're not in a relationship. I had asked you, well, talk to me about love. Like, what is love? And I'm curious of what would you define? What is love to you?
I don't know. I think you have to constantly redefine that word over the years, because when we grew up, I came from a family. When they got married, they stayed married forever. Like your mother and grandfather. 9 kids in a 3-bedroom row home. There's a lot of closeness there, a lot of love within the family, a lot of conflict on that. I don't remember the incident of sitting you down on the steps and saying I don't. I love your mom, and I still love your mom. No, I was no longer in love with your mom. And just like now, and I saw Kat the other day. We went out to dinner. I love Kat. I'm not in love with Kat. I only can take Kat in little doses.
This is his ex-wife.
So, love is someone that I want as a partner to grow in my next phase of my life, my retirement life, to be able to do things with, to be able to travel with, and that we both don't like conflict and can get along very well and support and complement each other. I guess that's what I'm looking for.
Maybe me being thought of as an over communicator sort of happened because at that incident that you don't necessarily remember, of sitting on the couch and saying, I don't love your mom anymore, and realizing now.
Was it couch or steps? You said steps.
Steps. It was the steps. I'm sorry. It was the steps. And you sharing that with me, I didn't have the awareness to ask the questions that would have been helpful for me to understand. So I think throughout the years, because I was trying to understand my reality, but didn't have the communication skill set yet to present the questions, that now I can come across as an over communicator, because I want to understand. I want even those little, like that little nuanced difference of, my dad meant that he actually did still love my mom, but he was saying that he wasn't in love with her anymore. And those are sort of confusing concepts for a child if they're still learning what love is at that time. And around that time, I was also in my first loving relationship of experiencing with my high school sweetheart. And do I even bring this up now?
Should probably not bring it up then.
Why? You probably not bring it up, but it's recapping memories. The only thing I'll bring it up now because you watch X-Rated with me. I sat on the couch. This was actually a strange experience to watch myself on television with my dad as I'm revisiting ex relationships, and there's talks of sex, and that's not generally a conversation that you're having with your family. And when it's just because we've now gone back to high school. I also remember around the time of, being a child and having sex for the first time. And do you remember this?
I never caught you having sex, but I caught, what's his name? Einstein in bed with you, laying there.
I don't know if you caught him in.
Yes, I did, and I kicked him out of the house.
I don't know if that was interesting. I remember you and your friends bullying a boyfriend at the time and making him leave the house. But what I am referring to, this was later on. This is after Kurt, who you're speaking of. And I had sex for the first time at 15. And my mom asked me shortly right after, I don't know, mom's intuition, and she just knows, and said one night as we were laying in your bedroom, her and I watching TV, and she said, she asked me if we had sex, and I lied. I said no, and we had just, and then I felt guilty for lying, and so I told her, and I said, but don't tell dad. And 3 days later, every time I saw you, you started saying to me, we need to talk. And so I was just avoiding you like the plague. Like, I'd turn the other way whenever I saw you. And then one day you called me as I was getting ready to leave to go to his house, and you sat me at the table and you said to me, "You're too young to be having sex. Stop and promise me you'll never do it again."
Did you promise me?
I did.
Did you keep that promise?
For about a week.
Jesus.
I should have, at that time, see, maybe I've learned to over communicate because I didn't get to ask the questions that I needed. That was the end of the discussion. What type of sex ed is that? I didn't learn much from the school, and now you just said don't do it. So this is abstinence only sex, talk, consent, like that. Our education doesn't work.
Okay, but back in my day, 15 years old was too young to be having sex, and now they're having sex at 12 years old. So, but it was the time of the day and how I was brought up.
Well, I don't think that all people are having sex. I pretty much guarantee that your granddaughter and grandson are not having sex.
They're not 12 yet, and I didn't say they were.
Well, you said kids are, and they're older than 12.
Okay, well, not everyone. I never qualified as everyone. There's some.
Some. Okay. So what didn't we cover? What's our last thing? So let me just check my notes. Oh, one thing that I thought was really endearing recently. I had asked you what was your favorite memory of me as a child, and you said when I dislocated my elbow. I was a cheerleader, and I dislocated my elbow, and the coach had to take me to the hospital. And at the hospital, I called out for you, and you said that was one of your favorite moments.
Yes. You wanted me, not your mom. You always went to me when you wanted something.
I did, and sometimes that was, mom would say no, and you would say yes. I mean, I think that's the polarity of parenthood. I imagine one parent gets frustrated as the other one gets to be the angel, and the other one gets to be a little bit of the devil at times. But you were the easy ones. That's actually what I am beyond grateful for this lifetime with you, is that you are a provider. You are one of the most generous people that I know with your money and your time and your energy. Growing up, it was always when I started to become of age where you went out, more enjoyed going out to dinner and bringing your friends along. I knew you would take care of us. And that was relaxing to not have to, especially as a really young adult, of having to concern yourself with money in that moment of time. And you have been super generous in providing for me, for the family. You even with your, ex-wife Kat helped her to launch her business. You helped me launch my business. You helped Tony, your son, to launch his business. So your career and your grit and dedication, your loyalty, I think that's one of the things that is also the most beautiful about you is your loyalty. You've taught me that. And free will at the same time, because I've also created boundaries. I think that you can have loyalty to something, but it doesn't mean that you have to compromise yourself to be loyal. And within that, yes, you've taught me how to stand up for yourself. Last night I heard you scream into the Amazon customer service. I wouldn't say that necessarily to do that, but you definitely do stand up for yourself, and you taught me how to do that well. So I'm super grateful.
Well, you're welcome, and it's been my pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that you want to share, Dad?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
Yes.
Any parting words for the listeners?
No. Thank you very much, and support my daughter, Christy.
Thanks, Dad, and thank you all for tuning in to another episode of WeDeepen with Christina. This was so special to be able to share my father with you. Yes, thank you all. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with your friends. I think we can inspire more dad-daughter relationships to thrive at this time. And subscribe, go check out the WeDeepen calendar, WeDeepen.com. Lots of transformational activities happening, new things to share with you, specifically Unleash. Unleash is March 10th through the 12th in Miami of 2022. So if you go to WeDeepen.com, you'll be able to use the WeDeepen promo code to register for Unleash. And I will be there. Lots of amazing people will be there. And come join us. Thank you all tuning in. I love you. And until next time, bye.